Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. Hi, I am me, he is he, and we are we. Hope you are having a good time wherever you are, whatever you're doing. Thank you for listening and hanging out with us. We have some stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
And specifically, we have an article that we're going to bring up, but we also have some other things to talk about as well. I'm going to let you start this off. So go ahead.
Okay. The article will be towards the middle of the conversation because
Yeah.
the article probably will bring a long conversation where what I'm going to bring up now should be relatively short. I have, I'm never short. Well, I am short. I'm only 5'5", but um, I have a lot of why questions. Some of them may seem unnecessary to people, but I wonder about it. Like, let me give you an example, and maybe those of you who are listening, our big crowd of viewers, maybe you could write in and give your opinion on some of them because we're not going to hit these whys too much in length. Peter, what do you think about people? I'm in Florida, and it's the older generation down here. Why do you think people with breathing apparatus smoke?
Because that's what got them on the breathing apparatus. They
I
never
mean,
kicked the addiction. They started smoking, got the apparatus, and said, I ain't quitting. So that's why they're on the apparatus.
dumb is as dumb does, huh?
Especially if it's weed. Absolutely. They are on it because they can't stop because it's a nice anxiety reducer.
Yeah, and these the people that are smoking regular cigarettes and such, uh, and are on breathing apparatus, or soon will be on breathing apparatus, are the ones that are affecting our health insurance rates.
I wouldn't say that as much. I think there's a lot of other things that are affecting health insurance rates. And I would also argue at the same time, if you're someone who's still smoking cigarettes, like you really got to be on some of the dumbest. You fell for some of the dumbest crap. It's 2023. We know how it doesn't have the same effects as heroin, but it's similar to heroin in that there is literally no plus side. None at all. And if you claim it helps your anxiety, weed can do that and will cause significantly less problems for you. And so could vapes. So the idea that you're smoking cigarettes for anxiety or for other purposes is mind boggling. Um, and mind you, as well, it is an addiction. So those who are addicted to it is hard to get off of. I understand. But if you decided to start smoking cigarettes in the past like 5 years minimum, little thick, little dense.
Yeah.
That was not the greatest choice.
Next, why drives me crazy. Why do old people have to climb on the roof of their houses? I mean, they're looking to save money if they have to do things, but they're inviting an accident to happen. And I know of so many people who have fallen or broken their hips or worse. I can't understand why people do that.
No, I understand it perfectly. It has to do with not accepting your limitations, recognizing that you're getting older and you can't do certain things. And they think that they're old, but they're not that old. So they go and go on the roof and then they fall because they get lightheaded because the atmosphere is too high up there and it's too thin of air for them to breathe. So they end up tumbling.
I have to, this morning, one of my fixture lights blew out and it's so high up, I would have to go on the top rung of my big ladder. I said,
Mm-mm.
you know what? I'll do it out the lights until I get somebody to do it for me or Peter comes down.
Yep.
Uh, okay, next why. Why do low income people have to knock off a great many babies with many different fathers and a lot of the time not even being married just to enjoy the
We're gonna
un
we're gonna we're gonna we're gonna cut this one off right here because This is a very targeted why that is coming from lack of knowledge. There is a lot of wealthy people that do the exact same thing. Nick Cannon, Eddie Murphy, they have 14 kids each, and because they're wealthy, it's okay. But
Wait,
when they're poor, it's not okay.
but
There's a variety hold on, there is a variety of things that can occur.
okay.
Just because you're poor doesn't mean you are not allowed to have sex.
I
Now, if
well,
that leads to kids on accident or because the man was dishonest or because of whatever reason, the only time that this is applicable is for the very, very, very small group of people who specifically their goal is to make a bunch of kids at while they're poor.
okay.
N-
I agree with the fact that some wealthy people are knocking off 10 kids or more, but they also are taking care of them and can afford to have them.
There's
I
not,
work,
no, hold on, hold on. There's a big difference between paying for them and taking care of them. Nick Cannon and Eddie Murphy are not actively taking care of these kids. The
we
wives are.
don't, we don't know.
He's simply paying the bill. Gimpa, I'm telling you right now, as Nick Cannon, a dude who is working on multiple shows and is an active worker and works out for 3 hours a day, there is no amount of time in his year that he can spend that successfully impacts his children in a way where he is actively participating in their life.
Okay,
He
you're
is
correct.
paying the bill and seeing them when he's available. That's not raising your kids. That's
Okay,
making an empire.
yeah, he's paying the bill. They're paying the bill, and that doesn't mean it's right because you might be correct that they're not actually taking care of them and their baby mamas or their wives are taking care of them. What I'm saying is, I worked in the ghetto for 22 years, and I watched kids come into my class that were brothers and sisters with the same mother, poor as hell, and 7, 8, 9 kids coming from that mother who was waiting online to get a loaf of cheese and some other things. Uh, I don't think that's proper
Right,
because
but you're also making the assumption that it was the woman's choice. We also have to recognize that there are men like Nick Cannon, like Eddie Murphy, who feel that
oh,
they
oranges. I'm
hold on,
talking.
hold on. It's not apples to oranges. There are a significant amount of men out there. Significant. I'm not talking like five people. I'm talking a significant amount of men of all wealth demographics who think that their seed is so rare and so bountiful that they need to spread it as far and wide as they can to leave a legacy. That's quite literally the philosophy behind Nick Cannon and Eddie Murphy.
You're
I'm
missing.
I'm
You're
I'm not
miss.
no no
My,
no. I'm not hold on. But you're saying it's improper.
I'm
There
saying it's improper that people who have or poor, uh, you could have as many children as you want if you could take care of them. But if you cannot pay to take care of them, and you have to go on welfare and then complain that the government is not giving you enough money to take care of your children, and you can't go out and work because you have too many children to take care of.
Right,
Uh,
but we also have
that
to recognize that this was 50 years ago in an entirely separate world. Truly, 50 years ago. I don't name you have not seen a person like that in the recent times. First.
you
Second,
know, been in the ghetto.
like I said, we cannot discuss about the woman because we don't know her situation. There are a significant amount of men who will force themselves upon these women and force their wives to bear children because the husband does not care what happens to the kids because he believes that his seed is good enough where they will find their
I'm
way.
talking about that. I'm talking about women who are not married. Have
Yes, and that's great. Women who are not married get forced on by men, get told that they will get shot or killed or stabbed or other horrible things if they don't bear this man's child. they get told that they must be a good woman and allow him to have sex with whoever he wants, and that he'll take care of her, and he'll lie to her, and she believes it.
Totally don't agree. I'm saying that these men are just out for the sex. It's like
Yes,
over.
they're out for the sex and they don't care what happens if they have kids. I have
Right.
never here's the point I'm trying to make. I have never met a woman who has actively wanted to just pop babies out. They may have wanted a kid or two, but has never wanted to just pop babies out. I have met a variety of men. As 25 years old, I have met men who have openly said to me or to their friends in confidence that if they ended up having a kid with someone, they wouldn't care. They would leave, and that they would go find another woman who is pure. I have had those experiences. I have never experienced a woman who has said, I want to have as many kids as possible. I just want to pop them out. Blah, 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 blah. I have met men that don't care what happens to the woman. I have met men who will happily have 3 girlfriends. And if all of them get pregnant, he'll leave all of them. That's my point. This is not just,
Let,
this is a complex dynamic.
let's agree to disagree. Okay. Uh, why can't people find suitable paying jobs?
Because society is crumbling.
I agree.
Society is crumbling, and therefore everyone's getting greedy because everyone's looking for their personal security, and they're not realizing that if they actually helped each other, we would all find security. But because everyone's being selfish and needy and looking for security with their own very individual self or family, they're speeding up and furthering the process of society crumbling.
Okay. Why is flying such an ordeal? When we had the pandemic and the airlines were sucking wind because not many people were flying, they would have been so happy when people would fly.
Mm-hmm.
Now you go to fly and there's turmoil. My my best friend's son, who is like my adopted son, for the second time in 3 trips from New York to Florida, when he went back to the airport to go back home, his flight was canceled, and he's an attorney. He had to be in court. He drove 23 hours home
Yeah.
because the airlines are screwed up.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's because that's piggybacking off of your previous question of why people can't get a job, and in lieu of society crumbling during COVID, every company ever all over the place realized that they can make the same money with a third of the workers by forcing a skeleton crew, because that's what a lot of companies did during COVID. They said, we have to downsize. This is only for a year or two. Please bear with us. I know it's a skeleton crew. We're trying. And then the company said, oh my God, wait, they did it. They did great. They made profits. They made record profits like we've been doing. We only paid a third of the employees. Great. Let's keep it that way. And now that that's been going on for 3 years now, 4 years now, since 2019, people are dropping like flies, people are quitting, and there's just not enough people to go around. So flights get canceled because back when there was more people, more flight attendants, more pilots, there were more planes to be had.
yeah,
There's less planes to be had because now there's 2 flight attendants that are doing 6 flights in a day when normally they would only do 3.
yeah, I
But
agree. They're
so,
not they're not paying pilots very much money. I was very surprised when I saw how
well,
little
yeah,
pilots have been.
but it's not just the pay, it's also just the workforce in general. Like, yes, most people in America are not being paid what they should be, but there's also a significant factor that is there are a lot less people working. And so it doesn't matter how much these pilots would get paid, they're being overworked. They physically are not able to do 4 back-to-back flights that are 3 hours apiece. They're just not capable of it. Flying a plane with hundreds of people in the plane is a very meticulous and important job. And They're literally holding lives in their hands. And to do that for 12 hours without a break, without proper meals, without proper sleep is insane. And they do crazy hours too, right? They'll do a flight from 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. and then they go and take a 2 hour nap and then do a 7 a.m. flight all the way to California for 6 hours.
And some of these flight attendants are so old that they have trouble going up and down the aisle. Um,
Yeah.
question: July 1st in Florida joined many, maybe 20 other states, 22 other states, where people are allowed to have carry guns and walk around with them. Why do people need to have guns? I don't,
Yeah, that's because America's convinced everyone that they're safe with they're safest with the thing that's killing them. Um,
I don't,
we it's just it's a long-standing thing, right? America's always been very proud about having guns, and everyone's if you got guns, you patriotic. And great, good for you. Um,
any
the
one of my
I
friends who has guns that were police officers, except for one, they either turn their guns in, or if they have their guns, they're locked up in the house and they don't carry them around with them
Yeah,
because
but
they,
like there's still a whole
yeah,
it's the fact that we're dealing with a 250-year-old constitution. Um,
yeah, you're
the
right.
right to bear arms had to do with when everyone had equal arms to bear, and it took 5 minutes to load a musket and 15 to load a cannon. So the fact that we have these weapons now and it makes things a lot more dangerous and a lot more puts us in a lot more precarious situations. Yeah, there's arguments of, well, I have a right in case the military comes over and demolishes us. I'm sorry to say, you and your little country bumpkin friends who in Florida or in the Midwest who've got a cellar full of grenades and uh
No,
snipers and
not by me.
no, but I'm talking like I'm taking it to the nth degree, right? You've got the Floridians who are walking around and they believe that it's their right to carry to protect themselves, whatever crap they delusionally tell themselves. But if you go as far as like the Midwest, these people who have literal cellars, like war cellars filled with hundreds of guns and ammo and weapons, I'm sorry to say, one napalm is going to end you. I'm sorry. Your cellar full of weapons is just not going to be enough to stop a tank, a fighter jet, and trained militarized men. I'm sorry. So your description of why you need these guns is insane. And for people like in Florida who carry them around, it's a power thing. It makes them feel bigger. It makes them feel more powerful. It makes them feel like they have control over situations that they don't.
Yeah,
It's all illusionary. It's all bull crap that they are spewing to make themselves feel better.
yeah. Um, question. You love this question. Why do we elect the same corrupt or old politicians?
Lobbyists. That's why.
Yeah.
That's the answer. Lobbyists, major corporations that are paying people so that they can continue to um do everything. It's a big club and you're not in it. I forget whose quote that is. But it's, all of them, left, right, center, all of them are trading, have insider trading information, and that company will pay them money if they vote for this law that lets them sell to this company, and then that politician puts stocks into that company, and then they go big, and it's a big club. They're all just sharing money. That's all. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's why we don't technically end up voting for these people. We've gotten pigeonholed into a two-party system that's both ends are corrupt. Neither one is actually helping us in the long run. Maybe one is a little kinder and maybe one has slightly better intentions, but for the most part, neither one is doing active work. Um,
So we have an presidential election coming up
Still
with
voting blue.
an octogenarian and a person who is being indicted 20 some odd times.
Yep. Yeah, he was just indicted yesterday on like 4 counts.
Yeah. So big choice. and they got enough money from the lobbyists, as you
Yeah.
said, to fend off any other candidates. Okay,
Yeah,
next.
well, that's how that works. And again, like I said, neither party is doing anything fantastic. I'll still side if it is truly between the two. Like there is no other choice. It's this or this, not a third choice of not playing or the Korean Party. If it is truly those two, I'm picking blue every time because they are still they're no even if they're not doing uh good things, shall we say, it's the lesser of the two evils by a long run. So,
Okay, okay. Now, when I was younger, my mom was a stay-home wife and a stay-home mother.
mhm,
And the benefits of that were when I came home and had a problem, she was there. Uh, good, good food ready all the time.
mhm,
Friends came to the house. They loved her, and as well as I did. Then, she didn't have to work. Then women decided that they wanted to work and wanted to be recognized for their individuality, and that's a great thing.
mhm.
You had two two people in the family working because they chose to work. Now my question is, why must two family members have to work in order to support a family and sometimes not even be able to afford a family of one or two children because of the exorbitant prices? And if you want to send your child to a college in the future, such a great portion of your salary after taxes has to be put away for college. So, why must two family members have to work to support a family if they can?
That furthers the first couple of questions we said, which is the collapse of society because everything's getting more expensive for no reason, right? These companies are making claims and policies that they are losing money and losing profits and whatever crap. It's it's just greedy. Continue to be greedy, more greed, more money. For the big guys during COVID, there was like a $4 trillion transfer of wealth from the low and middle class to the upper class. So there's no lack of money here. It's just greedy people being greedy and society feeling the majority of society feeling the weight of this sort of coming down on them. Um,
Okay.
because like for example college, the price of college is absolutely asinine. When you were going to college or when you were able to go to college, you could afford a year's worth of college tuition by working for the summer. Doesn't matter where you worked, you could work for the summer and you could afford a year's worth of college. And then when you worked during college, because college at that time was easier in the sense of you could, depending on the degree, right? You're going to be a doctor, that's different. But if for a lot of those degrees you could get a job um, that was willing to deal with you being on a college schedule, and that would pay for car gas, car fees and stuff like that, food, possibly board and books and so forth. Um, 2 months, 3 months working at local pool here for $16 an hour couldn't get me 3 months on my college tuition. I could save every penny. Doesn't get me 3 months. So that alone furthers that. Groceries tripling in the past 15 years. Um, uh, car dealerships still being a thing. The fact that people sell cars, that's its own scam. Um,
Now let's move on from this because I got a
yeah.
few.
Oh,
Okay.
sorry.
Uh, this is this is also part of that question. Um, I am a student of history, and I know what happened in World War II when President Roosevelt came in too late into Europe, you know, and the Nazis were already entrenched in positions because he didn't want to get involved in the war. Now we are sending a great deal of money to the Ukraine because we don't want Russia to spread through Europe like the Germans did in World War II.
Hmm.
Now we're spending a fortune there, and yet we can't cancel student debts.
Right. because canceling student debt doesn't yield profit, but war always yields profit. There's a
True.
lot of privatized war manufacturers for helmets, bullets, guns, weapons, gear, and those are not only lobbyists, but they're also within the club of those people. War yields profits. That's
Mm.
historically factual. Uh, Through every war, after a war, we've had major booms and major money and all this crap, and it's usually for not healthy reasons. But that's the simple and plain fact is removing student debt would genuinely benefit society and would help society in the long run, but it doesn't line the pockets of any politician or any multi-million or billionaire. So
Good,
war it is.
good answer. Uh, Now, three very simple questions we don't have to get into debt, into debt, into detail with. Uh, I'm a traditionalist in a lot of things. Baseball. It bugs me when I see the baseball players today getting up with more jewelry around their neck than one would wear to go to a special event. To me, in my day, you know, you, the Yankees. I'm not a Yankee fan, but the Yankees used to make everybody uh, get rid of their beards, have haircuts, and so did other teams. Now everybody has a beard that wants to have a beard and such. But I've seen so much jewelry around the necks of the players, and it's like they're trying to outdo each other. Now they're also wearing uh, these things in their hair of different color extensions. So between the jewelry and the extensions, uh, it's taken away from the traditional aspect of baseball. Why did I have to do that? I don't get it.
It's flashiness. It's selling a brand. It's individualizing themselves so that they can make money outside of their contract. So it can be the next Jordan or the next LeBron, because they may not have the skill to be LeBron or Jordan, but they have the looks or the personality, because marketing allows them to sell a brand that, though may not be the best player, makes them one of the best because of their brand. Additionally, I don't necessarily disagree in terms of jewelry. I don't care about the extensions as much. I think you should be allowed to. It's the same thing as basketball, right? They get tattoos, they change their hair color, they cut their hair. So what? But if you're wearing jewelry, I think, especially in a physical sport like baseball, physical in the sense of you're actively doing stuff, right? Not like football. But um, to a degree, yeah, I think jewelry's okay. An earring or a chain with like a cross or something, or just a chain, that's fine. But if you're walking around with like an iced out Cuban, or you've got two earrings, a gold wire braided into your hair, a nice uh bracelet, that's the word I'm looking for, and whatever else, where you're really just starting to outdo yourself and it really is taking visually away from the game, yeah, that's a problem. I think that's a little much, but uh, I think it's a little much in my opinion. At the same time, if someone wants to argue that it's an attempt to revamp baseball because baseball is a very calm and arguably dull sport, there is versus something like basketball, which is more of an entertainment than a sport. I'd say the NBA specifically, not basketball as a whole. But NBA is very much about entertainment and not as much about the sport, because people love to see Steph Curry hit threes from half court and 30 feet out, but they don't really care about, you know, that's the entertainment of it, is watching Curry hit those threes and watching LeBron dunk on people, or someone try and dunk on LeBron because like Ja Morant, because he wants to be the next big guy. That's entertainment. On baseball, you don't really see that stuff. The guy hits the ball and it takes 30 seconds for it to hit the ground, and then they throw it back and then we go to the next guy. So in an attempt,
Yeah,
uh,
John Morant won't be dunking on people for a while.
yeah, I know that, but he was a prime example of what was happening. He was trying to dunk on all these popular, famous basketball players, and he was doing it, and one of his next victims, quote unquote, was supposed to be LeBron. So that was sort of his part of his marketing, is like he's the new guy and he's dunking on everyone, and there's entertainment in that. And there's
There
the
was,
idea and the drama of like, will he actually be able to dunk on LeBron? And LeBron shutting him down 2, 3 times. In baseball, there's none of that. The most that they can do is get pissed at the umpire and rush the mound, and that's it. So, in an
yeah,
attempt to make it more entertaining by adding jewelry and adding hair color, that is an argument to be had. Whether I agree with it or not is a separate conversation. I think there's a limit and a level to like how much you can wear, because then it just becomes a bit of a showcase and we lose sight of the actual game. So I sit somewhere in the middle between you and the progress of it.
okay. Now, I hear that uh, small businesses in the Black community are a necessity for the Black community to survive.
I agree.
I was listening to Ice Cube.
Yeah,
Ice Cube said one of the problems is that the Black businessmen go into a bank, they can't get a loan to build in in the ghetto area, and so the white industry will come in and let's just say a large grocery store. They'll get a loan, or they'll build where the Black businessmen wanted to build, and that's terrible. But my question is, why is it whenever there's a problem, there is a small group that will burn and raid any business there, go in and steal the whatever they can get their hands on? And to me, that's a big why. And I know that they're trying to correct it in the Black communities because I
well,
work.
yeah, I would say it's not just the Black community, but I would say it's just people in general. You just have bad apples in every demographic. Why did hundreds of people storm the Capitol during January 6th? Because they didn't like this thing. 95% of them were white, but we're not sitting here talking about why whiteys are not correcting these other people.
I'm not
The
thinking that. I'm talking about businesses.
I know, but what I'm saying is the January 6th supersedes the businesses tenfold, because that's way more precious than any business. You can replace these items, but if they end up killing politicians and presidents, that does a lot more damage to society than a couple of businesses does, where they can reproduce these products. People rioting and or not rioting, but people breaking into stores and causing a fuss could be a few things. One, it could be them trying to cause problems for the company so that the company pulls out and then that Black owned business can actually thrive there. It could be people who just want to steal and are just bad people. It could be people that are a mix of the few. It could be people that do steal, but they don't tend to steal from certain places, and but they're also willing to make an impact. So there's a variety of reasons. Whether the fact that we're talking specifically within the Black community leads me to the discussion of we're still having a race issue in society, especially in America. So when you have a white man or a white owned company force themselves on a low income or a difficult area, knowing that that was supposed to be specifically for a Black owned business, you are inviting problems rather than trying to help your fellow man and say, hey, like, let's do some partnership stuff. I'll help you out. I want you to have a Black owned business. I want you to be proud of what you build. I'll give you the loan and we can work this out together. Now, that may
Okay,
not be the most favorable for a Black owned business to be in debt to this white major company, but it might be an option rather than the bank who's being also racist. So nonetheless, it's a problem.
okay. Let's
Yeah.
move on because I got two more quick questions, and then we're going to go on to the meat of
Let's
this.
let's pause for a minute. We got to pause because this is running out of time. We're going to do the second clip. So we'll be right there. We're back. The next
Yeah.
question. Go ahead.
Okay. Two quick ones. Uh, this might seem ridiculous to some of you, but it's not. Like I said, in baseball, I'm a traditionalist.
Hmm.
The last 15 years, I've watched rappers grabbing their crotch while they're singing.
Hmm.
Want to know why this is necessary? Because you see a lot of youngsters now emulating that and grabbing their crotch, walking by girls, grabbing their crotch, making remarks. Um, it's not the nicest thing to do. I guess people do it. I guess it's similar to uh, women dancers shaking their behinds and
Yeah.
wear, wearing very little clothes and wanting RESPECT. But I don't know why they have to grab their crotch. If there is a problem, I can start a business for ointment.
Nice. Yeah. That's good. Uh, or some crabs solution. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Some louse spray. Uh, no, it's the same reason why the Kardashians are famous and popular. It's controversy and it's sex sells, you know, like that kind of idea. The same reason why all these music videos have women shaking their ass, whether it's women rapping or women music or men rapping and men music. Women shaking their ass is always going to be attractive to a specific to men in general because that's why we have porn and we have other things like that. So watching it in a music video where it's not shameable is going to be entertaining, and it sells a lifestyle that is very gotcha and very grabby and very much a youthful vibe of parties and women and drinks, and it falls in that scope of what I said, which is like Kardashians and sex sells. It's a quick and easy gotcha sell, and marketers are looking for the safest route to make the most money. So they know that grabbing your crotch and having thick women shake their ass, and you rap about drugs, women, and abuse is gonna guarantee a bottom line. But if you were to make a creative unique piece of work that talks about social injustice or talks about anything else, there's not a guarantee that you'll get a bottom line
yeah.
because they
You
won't know how to market it and they won't know how to push it towards a demographic that has now been trained off of that kind of content.
Now, you do realize I live across the street from the beach, and if I'm
Yes.
wearing a bathing suit and I grab my crotch and there are women there, you know where I'm going to wind up at the end of the day.
Yeah, of course. You're
You
gonna
know,
they're gonna you're gonna end up at the county jail.
yeah. Okay, now here's the big why.
Okay.
Three whys. I mean, I could have written a hundred whys, but here's the big why, based on an article by Ingrid Jocks of USA Today. Gen Z doesn't leave the US, love the US like boomers do, and that doesn't bode well for our future. Why, Peter?
So we got to discuss a couple of things first. One, yes, this is an opinion piece, but this article is heavily, heavily obvious that this is written by someone who's a boomer or close to a boomer. She absolutely craps or attempts to crap on Gen Z for their lack of patriotism and their lack of love for a country that has done nothing but screw everyone over. Um, and why do we lack this patriotism? Because we're learning actual historical evidence and facts on how and why society is the way it is, and we're also able to document and hold people accountable. The fact that when you were my age you weren't able to recognize or find out that politicians were not only being lobbied but have insider trading information to make millions of dollars, and that they're not these are not a lot of politicians are not actually politicians for the sake of people. They're there for the sake of money, and so that they can line the pockets of their family for generations to come. Same thing as war. People thought wars were necessary back then. People thought they were disagreements that were going on. Nowadays, we recognize and can document the fact that wars are not only purely for profit, but also because it's insecure men having a dick measuring contest. Um, these are
So,
not wars that are actually built upon fighting for actual reasons. they are wars meant for profit and wars meant because two men who have egos the size of the moon can't relax and shut the fuck up for more than 5 seconds. Um, on top of that, everything's expensive, like we just asked earlier. Gen Z can't afford a damn thing. Nothing is affordable. Nowhere in America can you live whether it's an apartment or food or anywhere, off of minimum wage. If it's called minimum wage, that's supposed to be the minimum amount that it costs to live. Statistically, there is not a single place in America that you can go to where you can subsist off of 17 an hour. So minimum wage is an absolute lie. We may not have Social Security. Politicians are regularly lying all the time. We found out that textbooks are regularly lying. Textbooks that we were told are facts and where we're supposed to learn and get our history from is aggressively a lie. Like my favorite is the good old Thanksgiving. The whole like, oh yeah, they presented us with a turkey and they sat down and had dinner together. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. The Americans used and abused them like sex toys and got them to sign a deal that they didn't understand what was happening, and they stole land from them, and that's it. The same thing with Oppenheimer. I believe the movie Oppenheimer takes it a little healthier turn in terms of what actually happened. But like New Mexico, the government seized land from poor and low income people and and then not only seized the land and took homes from families, but then also brought these men back and said, "Oh, you can work for us," and then didn't give them proper coverage or care, and they all ended up with various forms of cancer and diseases because they were working with radioactive materials to build the nuclear bomb. None of that is ever taught. We just learn that the bomb was made. We don't learn about how bad America actually is, or the fact that like Florida and a lot of these southern states are shifting slavery and the history of slavery so that they can teach it on how it actually benefited society and benefited white people. Slavery doesn't benefit anyone, it never did. Slavery is an awful thing that happened, full stop.
They're preaching that slavery benefited the slaves. That
Right. No, but they're talking about slavery benefiting society as a whole.
yeah,
Slaves, white
yeah.
people, everyone. Slavery is awful, full stop. So things like this and so many other things that I'm just not even going to get into. All of this being said, America continues to push the idea that we're the greatest country in the world as if none of this stuff has happened. It is aggressively just a massive and growing problem. The government continues to lie to us. The whole concept of like the alien thing, right? That's a very obvious, whether that's real or not, great. He's
Mhm.
not a whistleblower. He got approved by the Pentagon to talk about this. He's not a whistleblower. What's happening is the government is using this information to hit the headlines so that they can do something else. The past couple of times when major aliens or things like that were announced to the public, something followed, a war or a major change in history in society within government. Something always was following it, underlying it.
So
So
how do you take this to the spread of Gen Z and boomers and patriotism and
boomers lived in a society where they were able to live in an escapist wonderland where they were able to build income and build a loving family and household off of a single income with four people, right? One man could go to work, come home 40 hours a week and make a living, and they could go on one or two vacations a year. They could buy their kids a bike, they could get two cars or one car and live very, very happily till the end of their lives.
let me
I
inter
I cannot get a I've gone through 833 jobs in the past 8 months, and I cannot get a job. And I am arguably applying for things that I'm overqualified for. My sister applied to Barnes and Noble, has a master's degree in English, and they said no, not because she's overqualified, but because they are requiring two letters of recommendation and something else, some other like something else. This is an entry level job. 3 years of office experience. Entry level job, 3 years office experience and letters of recommendation. Entry
yeah.
level. So reasons like this, and then you have boomers and politicians who are saying, "You guys are just lazy. You guys are just it's the avocado toast. It's the Starbucks drinks. It's whatever bullshit they can come up with because they already have their life set up and they're going to die happily with their AARP and their healthcare and their whatever. But once they go away, we're left with the mess and climate change. That's its own thing. So,
I'm so glad I threw this at you because I know it was a setup for you.
oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I actually, oh my God, you just reminded me. I was earlier this morning, I was on TikTok, just whatever, scrolling through my things. Fun fact, little fun fact for anyone who has TikTok. There is, if you go to your settings, I believe it's in your accessibility section, you can turn on what's called STEM, which is actually really cool. I saw it on my girlfriend's TikTok and I found it in the settings. You can flip a switch and you can now get a For You page, which is like curated for you, a following page, which is all the people you follow, and then a STEM section, which is specifically content that's based around science, all forms of science, anatomy, astrology, physics, everything, math, all of it. And I find that very cool. So if you're someone who's into that, by all means, it's in your settings. But I found a TikTok. It came up randomly. I was looking at funny crap, and then this TikTok came up, and I wanted to play it because it perfectly discusses what we're talking about.
Young Americans are less patriotic than ever. How could that be? Because the Statue of Liberty says, give me your hungry, you're homeless, you're poor, and I'll show them the door into America where they can breathe freely. And then, for our entire lives, people older than color television and scuba diving spent our tax dollars debating how we should have less benefits. Then everybody was about support our troops with their Walmart shirts and their rubber bracelets. Then we watch our troops come home. 100,000 of them every year are homeless. 6,000 of them put themselves in the ground. And the rest of them have to spend months on end fighting for the healthcare they already fought for. And then we get older and we realize all the bad things we were taught about were missing half of the bad. There was slave breeding camps and slave insurance in case oopsies. Well, yeah, but we freed them. It took 2 years for them all to officially be free. And segregation didn't end until like 10 years before Star Wars came out. But we won World War II by dropping the bombs. No, actually, we knew weeks in advance because we cracked their diplomatic codes that they were planning to surrender in August anyway.
So just
Very good.
and just to give this guy a shout out because his name's Admiral Grimbley. Admiral AdmiralGrimbly. Yeah. So that is a prime. I saw it out of the blue. I wasn't looking for these things. I don't like to like search on TikTok because it's a mess. It came up on my page and I said, wow, this perfectly encompasses this article that we're talking about later today. So yeah, America is truly like a horrendous place filled with awful lies. There's some great things that they have done, but I would say most of them are rooted in deep problems. And some of those great things would be much easier to digest and accept if there was acceptance and reparation towards the problems that they have caused. But there's no reparation, there's ignorance, and there's blocking of it. And it's just focused on the positives. Oh, wait, aliens. Let's focus on the aliens. A mess.
Okay. I want to make an addendum to this. That was very good TikTok you played.
Yeah. Yeah. He summed it up pretty good.
Yeah. One of the problems that do exist is something you spoke about in the past is that we do not provide adequate education to our youngsters in high school and junior high to deal with capitalism and getting a job and preparing themselves if they can't go to college or if they can't get a job after college. History, we always say study history because you learned from it, but
we never actually studied genuine history. No one, not even you. No one in the past 4+ generations have actually studied real history because
right.
it's too bloody, it's too gory, and it's too awful.
You're right. You're right. It was history. A lot of it was true. A lot of it was opinionated by the person who wrote it or people who wrote it, like
right. And the problem is we were never We were never taught that. We were taught that this is objective. This is
Yeah,
historical, factual evidence that occurred the way it occurred.
yeah. Cowboys
And
were always bad people. Indians were always the bad people. Cowboys uh, protected us. We took the Indian land, and
not to mention that they put certain images in black and white that were taken in color, like Martin Luther King Jr., so that they can separate the distance and make it feel like it happened a lot later in history, so that people wouldn't try and recreate it and feel inspired by it.
uh,
My favorite part of this article, though, is where this person puts in blue, disconnect on values. Americans increasingly don't value God, country, or children. Can
right.
anything still unite us? First off, the whole point of America was for it to not be a religious country. Now, it has always been a religious country. We literally have under God on our dollar bills. No matter how much they say church and state is not a thing, it has always been a thing. Always, forever and always, it has been since the foundation of this country. Uh, it has always been a Christian country. But in an attempt to remove that, because that's what they claim is that it's not a Christian country, now that we're trying to walk away from that, all of a sudden all these boomers are going, why don't they value God anymore? Because we're actually trying to do what this country claims it is, which is an acceptance of everyone, and that there's no one religion that rules this country, and so on and so forth. Yet on every coin and dollar we have the word God, and it's Christian God. It's not Muslim God, it's not Jewish God, it's not Buddhist God, it's Christian. And the idea of valuing the country, like I just said, there's nothing really to value. Children, can't value them if you can't afford them. Why do I want a kid if I know the moment I have this kid, I'm going to go into
Mhm.
financial ruin, and then I am actively putting this kid in a war zone that is this country, but also uh, I'm not going to be able to properly raise my kid. And then
Mhm.
when my kid grows up to be fucked up, they're going to blame me for not raising them properly. Or if they don't blame me, they blame society, because society is the one that's the foundation of me being able to raise my kid. So, you
I
know,
just want let me say something. It's humorous uh, in a way. In my first marriage, it was a very short marriage, but my marriage for my first wife, her father was a brilliant man. He was a tax attorney, and I was going for my was undergraduate, and I took the most boring. He was an accountant, CPA, tax attorney. His two sons was one was already a tax attorney and a lawyer, and his youngest son was going to be the same. And I remember coming back, and he said, "I hear you didn't do well on your accounting course. Why didn't you come to me for help?" And I said, "I didn't do well on my accounting course because I was doing a balance sheet, and I couldn't balance the sheet with debits and credits. There was a penny missing, 1 cent missing. So I spent an hour looking for it. I couldn't find it. So when I handed it in, it was my final. I put a penny. I asked for a piece of scotch tape, and I scotch taped the penny on there and gave me an F. And I thought it was kind of humorous.
I thought that was funny. I would have given you like a B. That would
Yeah.
have been good.
And everything correct, but I couldn't find that penny. And
Yeah,
when the professor, who was a really not a nice guy, he was dull as hell, said to me, "Suppose you were working for a big company and you did that." I
they
said,
wouldn't
"Well, yeah."
care.
I said, "Accounting is so boring. I wouldn't care. I figure if I'm getting paid, I'm wasting their time by looking for this penny. I'll just pay the person the penny, and we'll get out of it." And the point I'm trying to make is that we waste so much time with education these days that in my day, I got my master's and a master's equivalent, and then other uh, equivalents, and I got it. And in those days, you did it and you went through it. Today, you can go through all of this and, like you're going through, come out and not get a job right away. And it's very important that when you go to college, and especially even in high school, that they tell you what you have to have as a plan B or a plan C. And if they're teaching you about history, like what bad things have happened in history economically to our country, that you can prepare yourself for it, depression, things like that. Nothing has been adequate for the last decade.
Yeah, well,
And
I'd say more than the last decade. I'd say at least 2 decades minimum. Um, but yeah, I mean the concept, and also my favorite is anytime you talk about that on like social media or the internet, you get a bunch of these blue collar men talk about, well, that's what you get for being a little fairy, and why didn't you get a an actual paying job? And it's like, that's great. So then let's have every man do your blue collar job. Now we're lacking all these other things. There's a like, let me phrase, let me pause for a minute because I'm being a little general. The idea of it being get a real job is great. I guarantee you, in his free time, he's sitting in front of the television and he's watching his favorite shows and he's playing his favorite video games at work. If he's a security guard, he's sitting there watching stream on his laptop while playing Clash of Clans on his phone. Those are creative people. Those are people that you claim don't have a real job, but yet you are using them for entertainment. So great. Take that all away and you get to go to your blue collar job, come home and stare at the sun or the moon, I should say, when you come home and do nothing. So the idea of this whole like the college is meant to further your study in whatever you deem. The fact that college is offering what people claim as dead end positions and not actual jobs stems from a few things. One, college is being greedy and willing to make anything into a degree so that they can take your money. And two, society not valuing a college degree anymore and allowing people to make the job out of what they have. Because, like when I apply for jobs in my field, they're accepting English degrees, journalism degrees, digital media degrees, and business degrees. I'm up against not only my degree, but 3 other degrees.
yeah, well, you're making a mistake because you should be applying for a job as a gigolo.
Yeah, I need a little wait for that first though. Gigolos have the title has the job title has it in his name. I can't jiggle. So
Yeah, but
I need to get a little jiggle to be the O.
yeah, that's why Gen Z is mad and not as patriot, because it's not that they expect the country to be taking care of them. They want to be informed. And in this recent, I watched the podcast on the UFOs and the whistleblower, and the congressman said, "Where are they getting money? Where are they getting money for all of these things that are supposed to be done in secret? Can you, enumerate to, the 3 people who are, the whistleblowers?" And they couldn't say where because they said under private, and they can't do it in the public, but they will meet in
Yeah, because the likelihood is that it's unethical.
Yeah, so the congressman said, who was the chairman, he said, every year Congress goes over the books, and every year there's at least $1 billion missing or accountable for. So to end, unless you have something more to say, I can understand why Gen Z can be pissed off at our capitalistic system, because that same $1 million that is missing could be paying off student loans, could be making things not easier, because I don't want Gen Z to be labeled lazy. That was enumerated in this article, that Gen Z is lazy. I don't think Gen Z is lazy. I think that Gen Z was unprepared for this wave that's hit them, and perhaps it's my generation's fault. I won't give it all the blame to us,
No,
but
I wouldn't give all the blame to you guys. I think it's just every generation, right? Like anyone who's not active in trying to progress and uh democratize society, in whatever you want to call democratize, right? If you're not a part of that, you're against it, right? So, you
in
know,
the article it says we can't blame young people for not loving and defending a system they don't understand. And one
well, yeah,
made,
but that's this person article trying to
well,
say, oh, well, they don't understand. It's actually so much better than they realize.
yeah, uh, well, you just said it. You just said what I wanted to say. Okay.
Yeah, they don't. This article is she USA columnist Ingrid. Oh, this is a picture of her. Oh, she is aggressively white. Got it. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. She looks like she's in her 50s, and that makes perfect sense. A white woman in her 50s who's a columnist who makes very good money because she's a veteran columnist, guaranteed is looking down at these other columnists going, you're just not trying hard enough. And she's
Mhm.
writing opinion pieces. She's not even writing actual news articles. She's writing opinion pieces and getting paid stupid money for it. But when a Gen Z person wants to argue, hey, I'd like to work at the bottom rung of this company and be able to just live off of what you're paying me, people like Ingrid get pissed and go, they just don't understand capitalism right now. When they get older, they'll get it.
And maybe they should be taught better.
Yeah. I mean, and here's the thing that I would summarize based off what you were. The final thing is, I think Gen Z, the two biggest things that Gen Z wants is transparency of on all forms. We just want to know things. All the BS of like not discussing salaries, the information on how to do things, and where things are coming from, and recognizing and being able to learn the machinations within the machine, but also being heard and having action based on that listening, right? Because we are constantly being told by every adult under the sun that it's not America, it's you. You're lazy, it's your avocado toast, it's your Starbucks drinks, it's you're not bootstrapping enough, it's you're just not working hard enough. You're it's the degree you got, it's the mentality you have, it's that you're not religious enough, you're not spiritual enough, you've got a poor mindset, whatever. Every excuse that they can possibly come up with, they will tell you rather than accept the fact that the country that they've been living in is just a big lie and
Yes.
very much sees them and everyone else as a commodity to buy and sell so that the big people can just make more money.
Yeah. Some of the degrees are and always have been difficult to get jobs that are well paying, because
That's fine.
let,
That and I understand
let me
that not every demographic or every field should have an easy 20
yeah,
per like 50% acceptance rate. That's not the problem. It's that if I want to be a Moulin Rouge dancer in a back alley bar, and I can't get it because it's so specific. And this back alley bar is a very popular one, and it's got a lot of famous people that go there. And I can't get in because they only accept one person every 10 years. I should at least, at the minimum, be able to get a job as waiter or as a cleaner for a somewhere or some office job that pays me a living wage that covers my bills for my apartment, my food, and being able to not just live paycheck to paycheck and one car accident, one hospital bill, or one fee on my apartment puts me
I
out in the street.
I agree. So I just want to, unless you have more to say, I want to end this podcast by saying, besides thank you for listening, we just have too many whys that have to be answered. Some are less important than others, but this generation gap, unless it's fixed, is going to become problematic. And besides the political gap that we have, uh, it's going to cause more and more problems within our country, more and more divides. So,
I agree. I agree. I think the one thing I really just wanted to add was we have a lot of whys and we need to find answers to them. And some of the answers to those may be that we don't know. And that's okay. We don't know is an okay answer because it's not about the we don't know. It's what do we do now? That's the real answer.
mhm.
That is what we need as well. Is recognition of we don't know, but we're going to do this, not being strung along.
Okay.
So, but
So,
with that, thank you all for watching. This was a bit of a long podcast. This one's going to be, I think, an hour and a half.
really? Wow.
Yeah, I think it'll probably be close to that, maybe an hour and 20. But thank you all for watching. If you made it this far, thank you very much. I appreciate you and love you. We'll be back for another episode in the near future, and we'll see you then.
Peace out.
Peace out.